There's a mental health crisis in the United States, an epidemic, if you will. You see, 1 in 5 people report suffering from a mental condition. That is about 20% of the population that suffers from depression, ADHD, and anxiety. More prescriptions are being written, yet recovery rates remain unchanged, and the number of suicides has actually gone up over the years. Perhaps there's a disconnect in the clinical setting between what really works and what doesn't. Enter Dr. J. Kaplan, psychologist and professor at the University of Calgary in Canada. In this book, The Better Brain, she investigates the relationship between diet and mental health. Indeed, as the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, once said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine thy food." In the book, we are presented with a clinical case of a 10-year-old boy called Andrew, who presents with psychosis, OCD, and anxiety. His parents befell the grips of desperation as their child was treated, medicated, and hospitalized. Nothing seemed to work. Until one fateful day, he was prescribed vitamins and minerals. That's right, a multivitamin was all he needed. And indeed, after 10 months, his OCD was gone. Next, his psychosis vanished. He even graduated from high school, and right now has a job. Indeed, he has better job prospects than me and you in our basement. But I digress. So, why don't psychiatrists prescribe more multivitamins? Well, simple. Profit. The committees that write the clinical practice guidelines are tied to drug companies through funding. But going back to the science, the simple, cheap food that is being ingested by our friend over here can actually affect his genes and the way they are expressed, therefore determining how we think and feel. So, our friend here eats the food, chews it, swallows it, digests it, and eventually all the raw materials and countless substances that are needed for mental functioning make their way to the bloodstream. Now, our brain uses these materials in a multi-step process to create hormones, which indeed can determine our thoughts and feelings, such as the feel-good hormone serotonin, which requires 4 different vitamins and 7 minerals to be produced. But of course, our brain is not the only thing affecting how we feel. When you rely on your gut instinct, you're really relying on your gut bacteria. And many factors contribute to the depletion of our gut microbiomes, like the overprescription of antibiotics. But also, the conditions in which our food is grown matters. Plants today are grown in soil that's depleted of many minerals, not to mention GMOs and pesticides. Compelling evidence for this brain-gut connection was found in a study in which scientists transplanted gut microbes from anxious mice into more outgoing mice. The result? The happy mice became anxious, and the anxious mice became happy. Perhaps there may be connections between specific gut bacteria and conditions such as ADHD and other mental diseases. This mental health epidemic can be tied to the epidemic of poor eating, especially eating ultra-processed foods. In one Japanese study, people who didn't consume much seafood had a 65 times higher risk of experiencing depression throughout their lives. And in yet another Japanese study, 100,000 people who ate a diet rich in vegetables, fruits, mushrooms, seaweed, and fish was found to result in a 50% decreased risk of suicide. Conversely, in a Norwegian study, women who ate more fruits while pregnant had infants who showed more cognitive development at age 1. In other studies, it's been shown that taking multivitamins can reduce irritability and self-harm in patients with autism spectrum disorders. Scientists in California gave kids extra minerals and vitamins, and subsequently, they noted a 28% decrease in violations of school rules. So in conclusion, how do we discern a bad diet from a good one? Well, according to the author, it's quite simple. Eat real food. So perhaps if your grandma could take a bite and recognize the raw ingredients of the food you've given her, you're dealing with good, nutritious, real food. Also, if you pick up something with a really long list of ingredients, then it's not really food. Another suggestion would be to be inspired by the Mediterranean diet, which is very closely linked to brain-healthy food. But of course, moderation is key. Even a slice of pizza or a cake is not gonna kill you if you know what you're doing. Just be very mindful of the amount of sugar that you consume. The average American eats about 3 pounds of sugar a week. Compare that to your ancestor 200 years ago, who ate about 2 pounds a year. Of course, sugar can be found in a lot of processed food, which should be avoided as they are also high in sugar, sodium, and trans fats, but rather deficient in healthy minerals, vitamins, and omega-3 fatty acids. As with any addiction, quitting sugar cold turkey is definitely not advised. Chop a lemon and add it to your water for some flavor. And also, don't make big dietary decisions before a vacation. And of course, this is simply a visual summary of a book. Always seek the advice of your own doctor when attempting to change your diet.